In the stillness of this moment, we open our hearts to the light that has no end. Selected 1. You have been playing a totally separate game on a level so high that these surface dwellers can't even understand the board you're working on, while amateur hour celebrations are taking place someplace over your alleged downfall. In actuality, you're always 10 steps ahead. And what appears to be defeat to narrow-minded minds is actually the cosmos setting you up for a tremendous return that will completely redefine what power is. You couldn't measure the first indication that victory was a lookery. Strangely, doors that should have slammed shut stayed open. People who were sure they had been transformed started to raise uneasy concerns about the stories that were being told to everyone. Opportunities that were thought to be lost began to proliferate in unexpected ways. It appeared that the cosmos had other ideas for your story. While everyone was busy applauding one another on their tactical genius, forces beyond comprehension were quietly tearing apart intricate webs of deceit. Your spiritual team, whether you refer to them as angels, ancestors, or the intelligence of existence itself, has been anticipating, preparing, and watching for the day when divine justice would become evident in a clear and undeniable way. All of the lies were recorded in cosmic ledgers that were always in balance. The seclusion that was designed for you turned into a haven. You found frequencies of power that no one else could access in the quiet that was imposed upon you. You were downloading knowledge from unbelievable sources while there was constant discussion about your alleged shortcomings. You weren't punished for being alone. It was preparing for a power so great that your words would have the force of universal law behind them when you spoke again. In some quarters, success was seen as an indication of acceptability. As a result of that power, malfunctioning systems had to approve. That triumph required adherence to narrow standards of value. The possibility that someone might be operating from a completely different paradigm, one in which social manipulation is subordinated to spiritual alignment and divine favor is more important than human opinion, was never taken into account. In reality, every attack you received strengthened muscles that you were unaware you had. Every betrayal exposed weaknesses in the personalities of those you should avoid anyway. Every door that closed led you down avenues that took you to places you could never have imagined. Agents of your elevation were unknowingly serving you by dismissing imposters posing as allies and making room for relationships that would truly further your greatest goals. Those with eyes could see the symptoms piling up. With more money and assistance, the project that had been undermined started to recover. Connections with people who actually had power and influence took the place of poisoned relationships. When tactics were revealed and motives were questioned, the harm done to one's reputation began to resurface. Family, lean in. Your future is not waiting, it's responding. When you sow into good ground, God multiplies what you place in His hands. Tap the super thanks below and choose $20, $50, or more as a faith seed. As you move, declare, "Increase is answering me." We're building hope, preaching Jesus, and reaching farther because of partners like you. The seed leaves your hand, but it never leaves your life. It enters your harvest. Give, and it shall be given unto you. Luke 6 verse 38, KJV. The underpinnings of confidence from the outside were starting to crumble. You weren't silent because you were afraid or confused throughout this time. It was the calculated endurance of a person who was aware of divine timing. You were aware that acting too soon would merely serve to confirm stories and provide justification for more assaults. Rather, you made the wise decision, which made your actual nature visible. Strange synchronicity started to appear around you as you saved energy for the time when action would be most destructive to opposition. Individuals from your background came forward with knowledge that went against what was being said. At the opportune times, documents that were believed to be destroyed came to light. Those who witnessed schemes have the guts to speak out against them. With the meticulousness of a cosmic prosecutor constructing a solid case, the cosmos began gathering evidence. In the meantime, your opponent's confidence surged dangerously. Movement became sloppy due to success. Voices were talkative with victory. Methods were the subject of boasting, which exposed information that ought to have been kept secret, putting trust in those who ought to have been suspected. Although it was not evident to others, the change that was taking place inside of you had significant ramifications. Because it was inaccessible to others, the daily assaults forged something in your spirit that would never be shattered. You were creating authority that would demand respect without asking for it, acquiring insight that would enable you to see through similar tactics instantaneously, and growing spiritual armor that would render future attacks ineffectual. Over time, the cumulative weight of lies started to exert pressure on compromised systems. Since truth has its own gravitational attraction, all lies eventually circle it before being drawn into its unavoidable field. Previously persuaded people began to see discrepancies in stories. Plot holes started to appear in stories, which made people uneasy about their legitimacy. You were working from a level of strategic insight that made attempts appear like children playing war games, while everyone else was congratulating you on carrying out flimsy designs. Even before conception, your spiritual intellect had been charting strategies, observing behavioral patterns that showed intentions like a book. Recall how leaving the social circus was interpreted as a sign of failure. There was a celebration of your absence from events, convinced that successful exclusion from important circles had occurred. What was overlooked was the fact that you were already establishing connections in exclusive spaces and forging partnerships with individuals whose influence turned small power cliques into amateur social clubs. You weren't silent because you weren't sure how to react. It was the methodical endurance of a person who was well aware of the timing and manner of revelation. You realized that acting too soon would simply provide fodder for future campaigns. Rather, you followed in the footsteps of someone who had previously witnessed the conclusion of this tale and was confident that justice would be served with surgical accuracy due to divine timing. The most terrible thing about your strategic advantage was that every action made against you unknowingly aided your cause. Every falsehood propagated produced witnesses to deceit. Everyone became someone who, when the truth came to light, would feel deceived and manipulated. In the court of public opinion, success turned into the rope that was used for hanging. You were engaged in a game with generational ramifications, yet the emphasis was still on short-term tactical wins against you. Your reputation for composure under duress was built by the character you shown throughout attacks, and it will serve you well in life. The knowledge you acquired from enduring the worst gave you insight that would shield you from future scams. You have power that works on frequencies that are invisible because of the authority you gain by remaining dignified in the midst of chaos. With the added benefit of operating in dimensions beyond physical detection, your spiritual team functions with the same efficiency as the most advanced intelligence services. Long before the realization of observation occurred, patterns had been being documented, talks had been captured, and witnesses had been placed. The proof would be so complete that rejection would be impossible when the time for disclosure arrived. However, the intelligence that was on your side was both internal and external. Long before the true character of people was revealed, your intuition has been giving you clues about them. Those awkward talks you had, those awkward occasions when assistance was offered but felt insincere, those times when your enthusiasm didn't match your words. Yellow heart if you're moved by divine love. Now is the moment to share it. Click the Super Thanks button on YouTube and contribute $50 or more to help us broadcast God's blessings far and wide. Every act of generosity you make is being watched in heaven and will return to you 100-fold. These were all manifestations of your inner intelligence, spotting dishonesty before your conscious mind could. Because you had learned to trust these internal cues, rather than brushing them off as paranoid or overanalyzing while you were busy creating public personas, you had been one step ahead. The frequency of genuine intent was picked up by your spiritual radar. You were still able to retain your sense of surprise at your own awareness while preparing for attacks you suspected were imminent thanks to this early warning system. You were also benefiting from the network effect of your genuine contacts. Sincere people are able to identify with one another and instinctively develop protective relationships. You were discreetly forming new relationships with people who had integrity and influence, while attempts were being made to sabotage those that already existed. These relationships would be essential when the need for character witnesses and the necessity for strong voices to convey the truth arose. When a trustworthy person made a crucial mistake, the first fracture in the facade emerged. Maybe it was arrogance. It might have been alcohol. Maybe the universe just decided that the time was up. But all of a sudden, there was unquestionable proof of a conspiracy against you. Not clues, not recommendations, not gossip, but hard, indisputable evidence of organized, destructive campaigns directed against you. However, the revelation of tactics was not the most harmful part of exposure. It was the display of your moral fiber during the experience. You had remained dignified despite the destruction-focused and hateful consumption that was going on around you. You had been adding value while poison was being disseminated. You had been producing, while others had been tearing down. Even impartial spectators had to recognize who was truly strong because of the extreme disparity. People started to feel a certain kind of shame when they turned against you. The understanding that someone who had never merited animosity had been tricked into betraying them. Apologies were made as one by one, exposing the entire extent of the psychological exploitation that was undergone. The growing body of evidence of systematic deception was strengthened by each confession. It was more than simply a personal vindication. It turned into a case study of how truth, no matter how deeply hidden, finally comes to light. Lawyers paid attention. Reporters looked into it. Psychologists examined the strategies that were employed against you. Your narrative served as proof that there is justice, that manipulation has its bounds, and that real power always triumphs over fake influence. Observe faces when the extent of the error in judgment becomes evident. The guy who was believed to be annihilated was elevated in addition to being intact. Contrast with exposed character now improved every reputation that had been tried to be harmed. Every missed chance was replaced with a better one. Every friendship that was ruined was replaced with ones with real impact and integrity. Attacks were met with more than just repair in the universe. Multiplication was the process. You didn't just obtain back what was attempted to be taken. For each loss you suffered, compound interest was paid to you. You didn't even know there were rooms until doors opened. You received invitations from previously closed circles. In fact, surviving the harshest attempts against you had made you more valuable in the marketplace of respect. Co-conspirator networks started to fall apart as people rushed to disassociate themselves from the escalating crisis. When fair-weather allies turned on you, they left just as quickly. It was discovered that the social capital used to destroy you was worthless money in the economy of real connections. When others tried to force you to experience isolation, you didn't have the inner strength to deal with it well. The accuracy of falling was its most rewarding feature. Every consequence you experienced was directly correlated with the harm that was sought to be done to you. Falsehoods regarding your character turned into the reality of theirs. For others, isolation that was designed for you became the new normal. The attempted professional harm boomeranged back with interest and tactics that were exposed. People's perceptions of you changed dramatically and instantly. Everyone wanted to be linked to your achievement instead of your alleged failure all of a sudden. With fresh vigor, invitations that had dwindled during your attack started to pour in. When the public learned of your vindication, projects that had been turned down for funding when your name was linked suddenly received funding. Your reputation in the workplace didn't simply get better. It soared above earlier heights. You stood out like a beacon of authenticity in a sea of shallow manipulation because of the contrast between the dishonest tactics used against you and your unwavering integrity. It was precisely because of your handling of hardship that organizations started to approach you. Realizing that the ideal candidate for brand association is someone who remains true to themselves under duress. Former assailants experienced an immediate and severe psychological impact. There was a shift from reveling in your demise to frantically attempting to control the harm. The confidence that was shown when attacking you vanished when the full extent of the miscalculation became evident. As I watched, frantically trying to explain conduct turned into a masterclass in the precise way that karma works. Aggression and retribution did not bring you dominance. It developed organically as truth made room for your true strength to show up. The cosmos had already taken care of that part of justice, so you didn't need to fight anyone. All you had to do was assume the power that had always belonged to you, but had been momentarily hidden behind smoke screens of dishonesty. Your vindication had an effect that went much beyond your small social circle, sending ripples to individuals and circumstances you had never met before. Your tale served as a model for others who were subjected to similar attacks, demonstrating how methodical character assassination efforts ultimately fall apart due to inconsistencies. Legal experts started using your case as proof that no matter how complex the deception gets, the truth will eventually come to light. As case studies in manipulation and healing, educational institutions began looking at psychological warfare strategies that were employed against you. Dove brothers and sisters, everything done in faith multiplies in God's abundance. Use the Super Thanks feature to donate $100 today and join this sacred mission. When your roots are grounded in Him, your fruit will flourish, and your offering becomes a seed that bears blessed harvests. Your meticulous approach to each stage of the attack served as a model for others to follow during times of unfair persecution. You set an example for how to endure and prosper through concerted attacks with your tactic of strategic silence, followed by overwhelming evidence. Not only did media outlets pick up your story because of the spectacular reversal, but also because it had wider ramifications on justice, truth, and the strength of upholding integrity under duress. Journalists discovered a gripping story about the ultimate victory of genuine character over fabricated reputational harm in your experience. Coverage increased your credibility on a regional and national level, extending your validation beyond your local community. The way you remained professional during the situation caught the attention of the business community. Businesses started contacting you with offers that were better than anything you could have had before the attack started. You were valuable in ways that regular success could never be because of your proven capacity to face adversity with grace. The very difficulties that were supposed to ruin your career turned into opportunities that helped it reach new heights. The psychological resiliency you shown astounded the mental health doctors who were examining your case. Academics grew interested in your ability to keep your inner serenity while the outside world was in turmoil. Your coping mechanisms, support networks, and mentality that had preserved your essential self during a prolonged assault were all the subject of expert research and appreciation. Most importantly, your tale was shared by spiritual communities worldwide as proof that divine justice is carried out with perfect time and precision. Your experience served as evidence that people who identify with higher ideals are ultimately shielded by powers that are immune to human influence. Numerous others fighting against injustice and deceit found hope in the way universal law had worked in your case. The most amazing thing about your path, if you have one, is how your capacity for move prediction developed into a kind of strategic expertise that goes much beyond the specific battle. Your ability to recognize patterns while reading intents has evolved into a highly advanced early warning system that functions in all aspects of your life. Now, you are able to spot deceit in its early phases, spot manipulation before it gets out of control, and spot genuine character right away. Your use of strategic thinking in campaigns against you has become ingrained in all of your undertakings. In corporate talks, interpersonal interactions, and artistic endeavors, you inherently anticipate a number of steps. In competitive settings where others are still learning the fundamentals of the game, you have a clear edge because to the chess master mentality that shielded you from attacks. One of your most potent strengths is your ability to exercise strategic patience, which you develop throughout many months of apparent loss. You keep a long-term perspective that enables the best timing and greatest impact, whereas others respond rashly to the situation at hand. Passive waiting is not what this patience is. It's proactive planning for times when taking action will yield the best outcomes. Having survived a systematic attack, you have acquired wisdom that goes beyond the typical human experience. You now know how to decipher energy signs, which show the genuine motivations underlying statements and deeds. You've mastered the art of seeing through facades that totally deceive people. You now have access to levels of understanding that pale in comparison to the common wisdom. Gaining reputation by gracefully surviving a systematic onslaught has turned into a kind of social currency that can be used to open doors in both your personal and professional life. People now trust your judgment in other areas after seeing how you handled injustice. Businesses now look to you for leadership in difficult circumstances after witnessing your character under duress. Your reputation has been built on unshakable foundations by the same trial that was intended to ruin it. In conversations where it could have previously been disregarded, your voice now has weight. People pay attention when you talk about integrity because they have seen you uphold it under unimaginable strain. When you talk about justice, people listen because they see your faith in it even when the facts contradicts it. People gravitate toward you when you discuss faith because you have witnessed its power in action. Your position or title has no bearing on the effect you have. Its foundation is proven character that has been put to the test in the crucible of actual hardship. Institutions cannot provide this kind of authority, and critics cannot take it away. It is a type of leadership that inspires rather than intimidates, arising from the meeting point of genuine authority and shown resilience. Others who are fighting against deceit and manipulation now find hope in your tale. People come to you for advice, not because you know everything, but rather because you have been through the same struggles as others and have come out on the other side with knowledge that comes only from first-hand experience. You don't have theoretical insights. These are tried and true facts with the weight of actual experience. It's been amazing to see how your professional image has changed. Once ignoring your contributions, industry leaders now aggressively solicit your opinions on important choices. Previously unattainable speaking chances are suddenly coming your way. Your knowledge is appreciated not only for its technical aspects, but also for the insight gained from overcoming great difficulty. What started out as a personal assault has grown into a legacy that will affect generations further away. Your response to injustice has set precedents that others will adhere to in similar situations. Your example demonstrates that it is possible to remain dignified in the face of attack, to have faith in divine timing when human evidence points to abandonment, and to come out of systematic persecution with more power rather than less. Your techniques are starting to be included into conflict resolution and character development curricula in educational institutions. Psychologists are researching your strategies for preserving inner calm in the face of chaos outside and sharing them with others who are going through similar difficulties. Communities looking for direction during difficult times are sharing the spiritual practices you used in your lowest moments. Your situation is being studied by business schools as a case study on reputation restoration and crisis management. Your ability to turn a methodical attack into final vindication has become a paradigm for how real leaders may endure and prosper through well-planned campaigns aimed at destroying influence. Your story shows that having good character is not only a moral quality, but also a competitive advantage. Academic papers and videos are studying your story and documenting it in books. Researchers who study spiritual warfare and human resilience have turned their attention to the methodical attacks against you and the accuracy of your response. Your story is proof that spiritual protection exists and that people who follow higher ideals eventually win out. The most significant takeaway from the entire exercise is that having a multiple-step edge involves more than just staying one step ahead of your adversaries. It's about functioning from a level of awareness that renders that way of thinking outdated. You were in harmony with the creative and restorative forces that operate with the basic structure of reality itself, even if your attention was on the devastation and manipulation occurring all around you. Because of your link to divine intellect, you are constantly using knowledge and understanding that are unavailable to purely human reasoning. This is not magical conjecture. It's a useful edge that shows up as better choices, better timing, and results that appear magical to others who don't understand the underlying principles. Glowing star yearning to witness God's miracles firsthand? Plant your spiritual seed now by contributing $100 or more through the YouTube Super Thanks button. Your offering lights the path for others and echoes through His divine plan, bringing His light into every step you take. You may access a level of strategic wisdom that is so superior to traditional planning because of your spiritual awareness. There's more to the security that surrounds you than just spiritual solace. It is useful defense that uses compound interest to reroute negative energy back to its source and repel attacks before they gain momentum. Passive protection that leaves you defenseless is not what this is. Active support increases your efforts and speeds up your progress toward objectives that are in line with your highest purpose. Surviving the worst has permanently improved your intuitive guiding system, granting you access to wisdom that functions more precisely than analytical reasoning and more quickly than conscious thought. This inner wisdom precisely directs your actions, rendering outside barriers meaningless and turning seeming defeats into tactical advantages. It is impossible to deny the divine orchestration as one stands here and looks back at the entire trajectory of this event. You develop the muscles required for the degree of success you were aiming for with each attempt. Before you reached places where sabotage could have actually caused harm, every betrayal exposed individuals you needed to cut out of your inner circle. Each door that was closed led you to opportunities that better suited your final goal. The changes you experienced during campaigns against you gave you skills that will be useful to you for many years to come. You discovered how to believe your gut even when it seemed to be contradicted by outside information. You learned to keep your inner serenity while the world was raging around you. Although you were unaware of it, you found hidden sources of strength within yourself. These weren't rewards for persevering through adversity. You were unstoppable thanks to these power increases. Your ability to remain silent amid attacks has evolved into verbal-less authority. Your ability to tolerate provocations has transformed into wisdom that can quickly spot future lies. When you were degraded, your dignity took you to a place where other people's opinions were just noise. The very attributes that were targeted for destruction served as the basis for your unstoppable power. As we go back to that first moment, it becomes evident how circular this plot is. Someone rejoicing at what was thought to be your defeat. The celebration is yours now, though. The metamorphosis is complete, and the victory is real. Because there was no knowledge that you were playing a whole other game on a completely different level. You were eliminated too soon. Selected one. Your return is more than just self-validation. It serves as proof that divine justice exists for all other chosen viewers. Believe there are laws governing spiritual combat, and that people who use genuine power will always triumph over those who use deceit and trickery. Your experience serves as evidence that those who remain true to their ultimate purpose are supported by the cosmos. Because it was tested by pressures no one can create, and forged in fires no one can start, the authority you now possess is unbreakable. Since you've previously overcome the worst and come out stronger, no attack in the future will be able to take away from who you've become. Your spiritual immune systems have evolved to defend you against specific types of poison. Additionally, you've acquired the wisdom to recognize future schemes before they're fully formed. Every selected individual who sees your vindication knows that this is more than just a triumph for themselves. This demonstrates that people who walk in genuine authority are indeed supported by the cosmos. Others going through similar struggles are encouraged by your example, which gives them hope that justice will be served and truth will win out. The scales haven't simply balanced, even when lies appear to be in control. These have permanently swung the scales in favor of people who value patience over response, integrity over manipulation, and divine timing over impatience. You were always one step ahead, the one that was selected. As you were never walking by yourself, there were always stronger forces working in your favor than against you. It was never the game being played that was thought to be won. Greetings from your fresh beginning, where your elevation is the exterior ending. When you defeat others, you gain dominance, and when you misjudge others, you create your masterpiece. It's the phoenix rising. Justice has been administered with the kind of heavenly accuracy that eliminates all possibility of error, and the scales have been balanced. This moment is always meant for you. You're going to win every time. You always had many steps ahead of you,